So if your goal is weight loss, well, if you're with a fasting coach, well, how much you want to lose? 100 pounds, 6 months, no problem. So now what? The 6 months is up. You've lost your 100 pounds. Now what?
I really like how you prep your clients and your community when it comes to fasting. Can you speak a little bit about that?
I think it's necessary, even if you're doing like one day of fasting. I go into this like, okay, this is a lifestyle change. We're not doing this just for weight loss.
Hello, Chris James. So nice to have you today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about how did your journey start with this whole health, digging into health, helping people or fasting, whatever. Just give us a little summary or how did you start with all this?
Yeah, so it actually started from a heartbreak. So I was dating this girl. We there, it was kind of like we were dating with intention. So there was an idea that we would be getting married at some point. It didn't work out. Very long story short. And I was dealing with a lot of residual mental and energetic trauma from the whole experience, but I just couldn't seem to get over the hump, where you just move on, you start dating somebody new. I was stuck for 6 years, just stuck in the uh past. So I was talking to some of my elders. I'm like, hey, how, like, y'all are older than me. What do I do about this? And their suggestions led me down a road that eventually turned into my health journey. Um,
Wow.
what I started to as I started to focus on trying to fix, my broken heart, some of the things I was doing was also simultaneously having an impact on my physical health. And I started to learn that it's all interconnected. I didn't truly understand that at the time, but your physical health, your mental health, your energetic or spiritual health, it's
Mhm.
all interconnected. And so as I started working on one aspect of my health, other aspects of my health started to get better. And I just started to see the trend, and I started to lock in. I was just amazed at what I was experiencing.
Wow, that I had no idea. I didn't know this story. I watched some of your earlier YouTube videos with about like your grandma, how she influenced you. So I did not know this story. So at that point, when the breakup happened, did you have any like health, like, were you healthy in general, like body wise, or was this just meant like more mental health wise, like spiritual health, or were other issues like health issues out of alignment at that point?
Well, when the breakup happened, I would say that there were no major health concerns.
Okay.
Prior to the breakup, I was dealing with high blood pressure. So that was the first time that I was like, oh, something's wrong. And I was only 24 at that time. So I was 20, it was like 24, 25, and I was pre-hypertension.
Mhm.
So at that time I decided to make a shift, but that was the only change I'd ever made as far as health goes.
Mhm.
And then after we broke up, it was about 6 years of going back and forth with this breakup.
Oh,
And
wow.
at the end of that, that's when my health, at that time, my health had started to decline.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So, so it took like 6 years to get over this breakup, or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Because I
This
was
girl did a
really,
trick on you. My goodness. We need to, what's her name so we can find her? I'm just kidding.
yeah, no, it's, I would say that it was more, it's hard to say this. I don't want to say it was a self-inflicted wound because it wasn't, but there's no bad guy in the story. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It was just bad timing for us. And the reason why it impacted me so greatly was because I, when I was younger, I was like, yo, I'm looking for my wife. I'm looking for my purpose in life. Like
Gotcha.
I was focused on that. I grew up very religious, come from like a Southern Baptist background, so it's a quite religious group, and I was taught you don't have sex before marriage. You have your children inside of your marriage and all this stuff, and I wanted that, and I also knew that as a man I needed to find my purpose in life, because a man without his purpose is just like a dog without a bone. It's like
Mhm.
men need their purpose in life, right? They gotta find the dragon that they're supposed to slay. So um when I found her, she was the first person that I found that was my friend before we ever started dating. So it wasn't just, oh, I lost a girlfriend, because you meet a girl, 3 months maybe, you get together, 6 months later, y'all aren't together anymore, no big deal. But like she was actually my friend. And also I thought that, if we took some time away from each other, she would mature, I would mature, and then we would just come back. And it just never happened.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a long process. But I was probably about 28 when I started noticing my health issues. Um, that's like when I very first started noticing them. I didn't actually start like working on them until I was like early 30s. It was like 33 or something like that.
Gotcha. So, I mean, I have so many questions about this whole journey, how it started with the breakup and stuff. But looking back now to where you are right now, the whole phrase when people say everything happens for you and not to you. Do you feel like this is true in your life right now? Going back to that breakup, even though at that time it wasn't a good thing, like it really brought you a lot of pain and struggles for quite some time. But looking at it now, do you feel like this was the right thing that happened at the right time for you, not to you?
Oh yeah. I have no regrets. Like,
Awesome.
yeah, I have zero regrets. I know for a fact I would not be here if we were still together. Like my
Mhm.
health would probably be in a completely different place. Um, I just, yeah, it was everything happened um for my benefit. And that's actually something that I believe. Like I say that,
Mhm. Yeah.
I jokingly say it to my friends all the time, but um I'm very happy with the outcome.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when it actually when something happens to you and you're like, how could this be happening for me? But usually it's not till later when you realize, you know what? Yes, this happened for me because without this experience, I wouldn't be where I am. I'm sure with like starting your whole health journey and doing what you do. I love how passionate you are about helping others and inspiring others to see a different view of health. Because as I've watched a lot of your YouTube videos, and if any of you don't watch his YouTube, go to his YouTube. You've got so many amazing videos. And me being a medical professional, I completely relate to what you see out there as far as like the health issues, how people are treated, and how the whole medicine has, in a sense, if I might say it this way, failed us in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how like what inspire you to start helping others other than
Okay.
this breakup and stuff?
I do want to make one correction, because you asked were there other health issues. So it wasn't my focus at the time, but one of the issues that I did have that was becoming more and more prevalent as I got older was some sort of infection. To this very day, we don't know what it was, because the doctors never diagnosed me with anything. And this was part of the reason why I was so frustrated with the mainstream medical practices. I was telling them like something's going on. I had like an irritation in my urethra,
Mhm.
and like they're just like, it might be in your head. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, just because your test doesn't show, so I know, like I feel irritable down there. And so that was one of the major reasons why I needed to move forward. But also at the time, especially as I started getting like my late 20s, early 30s, I was dealing with heart palpitations, which I knew. I said, you know what? This, like, I'm going to have a heart problem. Like, something is wrong with my heart. You go to the doctor, they're like, no, you're good. Everything's fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine, because when I was 16 years old, my heart didn't beat this way.
Mhm.
And I know that I haven't been focused on my health. So can't be a good thing. It doesn't feel good. Um, Also my hair was starting to thin, and like at the time, the most I knew about like hair loss was well, it's hereditary, and I guess if your dad or your grandpa or whatever, they have it, then you might have it too. Like that's what I knew. But both my grandfathers died with a full head of hair.
Mm.
So I'm like, I don't know if that's right. Like that doesn't sound right. So um I'm sorry. Did I think I got off topic of your question?
No, 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 it's fine. You were going back to like what other health issues you had at that time. So
Yeah.
did you ever figure out if it was like an infection, or did the doctors try to treat it with like antibiotics, or did you ever heal it? Did it get
Okay.
better?
Yeah. So I never found out what it was, but okay. So I went to several different doctors. Eventually, I went to a specialist,
Mhm.
and the specialist just ran the gambit. He gave me he gave me penicillin. He gave me all of the doxycycline, all of
Yeah.
the antibiotics, all of that stuff. And then literally the last day that I ever saw him, he was like, I don't know what else to do for you. I've given you everything we've got. He said, maybe it's dietary. And the thing that's funny about it
Mm.
is, at the time, when I very first kind of started going to the specialist, I was doing research, and I found a guy by the name of Dr. Sebi, and I was starting to think my issue might be related to my eating habits. So when he said that, it was just like, that's it. That has to be it. You know what I mean? Um, so then I started to study the alkaline food guide that Dr. Sebi had, and I started eating natural foods, because
Mhm.
at the time I didn't understand the real difference between organic and non-GMO and the impact that it had on my health. So
If I may ask, what was your diet before? Like when he said, "Hey, it might be dietary." What kind of diet did you have at that time?
I believe at that time I was eating everything except pork.
Okay, so meat
So
and fried, fast food, everything,
yeah,
all
yeah,
American diet.
the all American
Yeah.
sat diet. The only
Mhm.
thing that I restricted was pork, because when I was 24, I knew pork was giving me high blood pressure. So I stopped eating bacon. That's the only pork I was really eating. I stopped eating bacon. But yeah, I ate everything at that
Mm.
time.
So you changed your diet. You started utilizing more alkaline foods, vegetables, less acidity, and anything else. Like what other changes have you made since?
Well, at that time, what it really started with was fasting. That was like the big change that I made. The dietary habits really developed over the period of about a year after I started fasting. So when I was studying Dr. Sebi, he didn't really preach fasting that much. He really was talking diet and herbs,
Mhm.
but he would mention it from time to time. And then it just so happened that at the same time, I had found a researcher by the name of Dave Murphy, who was doing some very interesting personal experimentation as well, with different therapies, fasting being one of them. So I went from only looking at fasting as a religious practice to all of a sudden now it's like, no, fasting can be used for health and wellness, like physical health and wellness as well. Um, so I started fasting, and what really blew me away was this infection that I've been fighting for the better part of a decade. After maybe I would say 2 days of fasting. Now, when I say fasting, I'm talking pure water, no eating, just 48 hours of fasting at this point. I noticed that the irritation associated with that issue had subsided.
Mm.
So once that happened, I was just like, oh, I'm on to something because this has never happened. It's only ever gotten progressively worse. I could take there were certain supplements I could take to really mitigate it, or if I were to take some antibiotics, it would like be fine for like a week or so. But this was the first time without me taking a supplement or doing anything that it was kind of like going away on its own. And that's when I knew that maybe it really is diet because I'm not eating anything right now. So if I'm eating something that's causing me to have this problem, right now I'm not eating anything. So then it became, okay, once I get off this fast, I need to like pay attention to what I'm eating to see if something causes the irritation to come back. And that's kind of where my experimentation started to come in.
So your first fast was 48 hours, and then you started seeing your stuff with your urethra getting better, healing. And then did you just continue doing like intermittent fast or prolonged fast for like a significant period of time? Or like how did you start experimenting with the health benefits of fasting?
My first experience with fasting was actually 13 days. But 2 days in is when I noticed that my irritation was subsiding.
Mm.
But I continued fasting, and I saw so much stuff. Actually, I think like one of my first 3 videos, I actually go over line by line what I experienced with my fast.
Mm.
I was noticing I was losing weight rapidly. Every single day I was losing weight, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. Um,
So it was 13 days straight water fast.
right. That was my
Okay.
first. My goal
Wow.
was actually to do 30 days. That's what
Wow.
I wanted to do. Yeah. But I didn't make it to 30 days. But this is me. This is my first fast. I didn't know about prep. I didn't know anything. I was just, um, but so yeah, the weight loss, and then also it became like it became a okay. So I told you originally I got into this because of the heartbreak thing. Well, I didn't notice this until after the fact. But after about maybe a month or 2 months of fasting, I would play around with different amounts. I'd do 13 days, 8 days, and 10 days. So after about 2 months, I noticed that my depression was gone.
Mm.
Because there was a depression that was really associated with that whole situation with my ex, and it was just lingering. And then one day I just realized, oh, it's not there anymore. And so through this process, I was not just detoxing physically, but I was detoxing emotionally, which is something that me and my brother talked about later on, because it's so significant. So many people walk around depressed, or holding on to trauma. And sometimes, you forget, you don't even know what caused your trauma. So it can be hard to identify. But I'm
Mm.
just like, this is a great method for people who just want to improve and uplift their wellness holistically. You don't have to know exactly what happened to you, how it affected you, et cetera, et cetera. The body knows, and the body will start doing this work if you just give it the proper resources.
Mm.
So my first few rounds of fasting were, like I said, between 8 to like 13 days. And then I started playing around with like shorter fasts. So my brother Jonathan, who was doing the fasting alongside of me, he was morbidly obese. He was probably 300 and maybe 60 pounds when he started,
Mm.
and he had started to develop a technique where he was fasting for 5 days and then he would eat on the weekends, and we called it the 5-2.
Okay.
So we thought this was a great method for people who don't want to necessarily get into super deep healing, super heavy detoxing. It kind of keeps you sane when you fast,
Yeah.
and you get to eat twice a week. But he lost, I think it was like 60 pounds in like 6 weeks, something like that. It
Wow,
was like 50 pounds in 6 weeks or something doing that. It was crazy.
that is crazy.
So yeah, we were learning so much, and so much was happening, and we just documented it.
That's awesome. So has he been able to maintain all the weight he's lost? And I'm sure he's lost even more. I saw you talk about his journey on one of your videos too. So how
Mm.
much total did he lose? And does he still continue to fast and incorporate the fasting lifestyle?
Hmm. Yeah, so my brother Jonathan, he lost a total of around 100 pounds, 102 pounds, something like
Mm,
that. And he maintained it for several years. Then he went through a heartbreak, and it impacted him in a way that it just it just blindsided him. Same way it pretty much did me, to be honest.
breaks, dang. Don't break their
Yeah,
hearts. Whoever's out there, do not break their hearts ever.
yeah. Well, the problem is when we love, it's like legit. You know what I mean? Like we really love. So so he went through a phase for maybe, it might have been a year or so, where he was trying to reclaim some of the health he had lost through that whole experience. And we actually did a recent follow-up on his story, because he had gained, I don't know, like he had gained like 60 or 70 pounds. Um, and then and all of a sudden he got some clarity on what he needed to do to basically heal, and he lost 50 pounds in a month. It was just crazy.
Wow.
So we put that on the we put that's on the YouTube channel, and you can kind of follow his story. But yeah, he's doing really well right now, maintaining, continuing to grow. I just spoke to him not too long ago. He's got some new things that he's learning, so hopefully we'll be sharing some new information coming up pretty soon.
That's awesome. So kind of going back to this topic of regaining weight, I see this a lot. Like, even my past clients, they lose weight with fasting, we work on the mindset because, I think that's really important. And then, 6 months later or a year later, they come back and like, oh, I regained all the weight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give to people, and whatever it is going on in their lives at that time? Is it changing the identity? Like, what is it about when people, I lost like 70 pounds at fasting. I was 250 pounds at one point, and
Oh,
I, at one point I did gain some weight back. I was going through, breakups and all this stuff. I think there's a common ground there with the
yeah,
breakups, and you just get depressed, and maybe we
yeah.
use food as comfort. And, that's why, like, there isn't like a straightforward answer when it comes to like, what do you do when you are in that slump and you regain the weight? Like, how do you have any advice to those out there that are struggling with this? Because I see this is so common out there in the fasting community or just weight loss community. Um, any advice?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting question. Makes sense that it comes from a coach, because I don't think I've ever really, people don't ask me that. It's a very difficult question to answer, as I'm sure you're aware. It's something that I have been working to come up with like some way to, increase people's outcomes. But what I've come to so far is, number one, when you as you go into this process, right, whatever this process is for you, you want to shift it towards lifestyle change, and not like weight loss or disease reversal, or even just simply, building mental health. You don't want to just you don't want it to just be one thing, because to be honest with you, when you understand the body, you could very rapidly solve a lot of issues in those different areas, especially if you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
So if your goal is weight loss, well, if you're with a fasting coach, well, how much you want to lose? 100 pounds, 6 months, no problem, no problem. So now what? The 6 months is up. You've lost your 100 pounds. Now what? So I like to prep people with, hey, this is not a weight loss journey. This is not just I want to reverse cancer or whatever. This is I want to build wellness. I want to create a lifestyle that sustains wellness. And I
Mhm.
think that's a very important way to approach things. So that's first. The second thing is, I think, being locked in with a community. Because, okay, if I decide to come and work with you and I have XYZ problem and I work with you for 3 months and now that problem is solved, and that's pretty much it for our interaction. I go back to my normal life. And guess what? I'm going to fall right back into those same actions around those same people, or whatever that got me the
The old
outcome,
habits and all
right?
the, yep.
So, if you have a community, people that are on the same path, they also understand that this is a lifestyle change. We're looking for holistic wellness. Then you tend to resonate with those people and stay at that frequency. I think we don't spend enough time thinking about how our circle, our inner circle affects us. There's an old saying that you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend most of your
Mhm.
time with. Well, are those people who are interested in their wellness? If they're not, it doesn't matter how strong your will is and all of these other things. You are fighting an uphill battle constantly.
Mhm.
And at some point, you're going to lose. At some point. So, one of the things that I was intentional about doing in my wellness journey was I wanted to inspire my friends to come along with me. Those who came are here today, and those who didn't come aren't here anymore. And that was for me. I love those people. They're still my friends. I don't spend time with them. I don't talk to them. I don't go out. I just don't interact with them on a regular basis because they're vibrating at a different frequency. And that's all it is. It's not a good or a bad thing. They're just at a different place in life. So I got to think what's most important for me. I want to be here. So I've got to vibrate with people who are here. And that's all there is to it. So the other thing that I see that people do, and this is, I think, just like a knee jerk reaction, you've been doing well. You've been making steps maybe for 3 months, 4 months, whatever the case is. You've been consistent. And then all of a sudden, life happens, right? You have a breakup
Yeah.
or a divorce, or, somebody passes that's special to
Mhm.
you. And life hits you hard. And then you go in your shell and you go away. You leave the
Mhm.
community, you leave what you've been doing. And then, you start to feel ashamed. So you don't even want to come back because now it's been a month. And in that month, you have quote unquote ruined all of the results that you got leading
Mhm.
up to that point. And so people become shamed and they feel like they're going to be, people are going to talk about them. That's really what it boils down to. Like people aren't going to be supportive of what they've been through, especially if you've been highlighted in some way. Like
Mhm.
if you're some type of influencer, I see this a lot with people who go on their wellness journeys on YouTube and they highlight it. I've lost 100 pounds. And then all of a sudden one day they disappear. People
Mhm.
think they died. No, they just gained the weight back,
Yeah.
you know? So I guess the last thing I'll say is when life hits you, that is not the time to run from your community. It's time for you to dive deeper into the community. It's
Mhm.
it's time for you to run towards those people, more than you probably ever had before. You need to, you know what I mean, on a regular basis, create a schedule for yourself, lock in, and make sure that you are around those positive people. Number one, they're going to help you get past whatever it is that you've got going on, because no matter how big it is, it always feels bigger than what it is in the grand scheme of things. So stay with those people. And there's comfort and there's love there. And if you've chosen your community well, uh, then this is what they're there for. It's not they're not there really when you're doing well. Because
Mhm.
like when you're doing well, you don't really need that much motivation.
Yeah.
It's for when times are hard, and that's when people leave.
So I do 100% agree with you, the whole community and the proximity to people that are like-minded and have like-minded goals. They want to be healthy, they want to be um maybe fasting, or they just want to do better, be positive,
Mhm.
motivated. But and I've encountered this in the past before. What if the people that you surround yourself with are just people you work with, you maybe, or your old friends? Like, how do you find the new circle of people? Like, do you try to reach out to people online? Like, can you have mentors that are maybe not in person? Like, how do you, because I know that there are some, and I've heard this from clients. Well, I don't know anyone. This is my sister. I talk to my friend here, but they don't have the same goals. I don't even tell them I'm fasting. Like, how do you go out there and find those new friends? Like, for those people that maybe are in that kind of like weird place, or like,
Yeah.
that's all I have.
Yeah. I've learned that as an adult, it's hard to make new friends,
Mhm.
because we're all jaded. We're jaded. We're traumatized. When you're a child, you ever watch children? Like, children will become friends instantly.
Yeah.
That's my friend. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? There's,
Yeah.
they don't know any better. They've never been stabbed
Mhm.
in the back. They don't, right? So it's easy. And it's like, oh, we both like to swing. Well, let's swing together. We'll be friends swinging, and they'll build from there. So
Yeah.
as adults, we've been through a lot, right?
You're a swinger? What? Where's
Um,
James? I'm learning all kinds of things. I'm just kidding. I got you. The swing. Hmm.
swing,
Yes. Yeah. Not the swinger. Not the swinger
not
type.
swingers,
No, no,
not the
no.
Will Smith
Yeah.
swinging. Nah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. We have to be intentional. It has to be something that you want to do. You're gonna have to get uncomfortable. What AHA has done is we've done our best to facilitate an environment where that can be cultivated. I mean, the AHA community is that within itself, right? Like, as far as online goes. But if you want to be able to interact with somebody in person, you're gonna have to put yourself out there. Hey, I'm in this area, right? Go to a group like a healthy alternative. We actually have a membership. It's a free membership. It's called ahacommunities.com. And
Hmm.
it's basically like Facebook, but it's not Facebook. So people, if you understand that, like, it's not Facebook. It's we own the platform. So you come and you say, "Hey, I'm from wherever. Is there anybody in my area? Anybody, in there?" People will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm from there," and you find somebody who's like from down the way, and then you just start building that relationship there. That's one way. Another way is we host events and things of that nature. So, hey, spend the money, make the investment, go to an event where you can interact with people in person. We did an event last year in the Smoky Mountains, and people met, and they're still communicating to this very day,
I know
right?
you're doing one upcoming in Pigeon Forge, right? Tennessee. I live in Tennessee.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so
You
that's
live in
another way.
Tennessee?
I live in Dallas.
Oh, Dallas. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, Dallas, Texas. Um, Another way that you could do it outside of AHA, but I don't want to like just be like, oh, you got to come to AHA, we'll help you. Another way you could do it is think about where the type of people that you want to interact with, where do they go? You know what I mean? Like it. If you want to get into yoga, where do yoga people go? Like, where do they go? Where do they shop?
Mhm.
Where do they eat? And be intentional about thinking about where those people interact and put yourself there. You don't have to go, you don't have to put pressure on yourself. You don't have to do any of that. Just put yourself in the environments where the type of people that you want to be around are. And if you're there long enough and you're just open, so all you have to do is just be open, smile, wave, say hello. You will start to build connections.
Yeah. Don't go in there like this on your phone, looking down, being all, like we're so like this whole socially awkward. Like you go to the airport,
Mm.
like, or it's so hard to interact with people, whether it's at the gym or in church. Like you have to, and I agree with you, you have to be intentional about connecting, about looking up and actually smiling, having a genuine smile and saying hello to someone. Like I really try to be intentional, not always be like on my phone.
Yeah.
It's hard because I mean we're so used to like, okay, here's my phone, always on my phone. So I try to like be intentional whether I'm at work, saying good morning to people. And you know, I do that too. Like I have to be part of like a community. I have a coach. I'm part of like the big like Tony Robbins community. Um like your community, like I think you're 100% on it. Like you have to be part of a community, and
Mm,
you have to be intentional about wanting to be part of the community. And like
mhm,
you said, as you get older, it is harder to make friends, but you still can. Like I
mhm,
think I've made more friends now since like joining all the communities that I want to be part of. And my coach, my master, my sorry, what is it called, mastermind group, I'm working on creating one. So I have people with, you know, higher purpose for things, whether it's business, motivation, health. I want to be surrounded by that and reminded all the time, like, okay, you have to be intentional and doing it every day. You don't just brush your teeth one time in the
mhm.
morning and think that, okay, I'm good. Same thing with
Right.
motivation, same thing with like communities, with connecting with people, with weight loss. You don't just,
Mhm.
it has to become your identity. It has to become part of your life, and you have to work at it. It's not just like, okay, I'm gonna go sit here and it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. And going back to when you were talking about the whole like not regaining weight after you've lost a significant amount of weight, being part of the community and being surrounded by like-minded people that help support you. And the great point you made is when we are going through a hard time, that is when we have to reach out. That is the key time to reach out to others.
Mm.
And that is the time when we don't do it. We're like, I'm just going to sit here in my little cocoon. And when the summer comes, maybe I'll come out of my cave, my little,
Right.
and that's hard. I've done it before. I've done
Mm,
it, and I don't know. Like I think, you know, physiology, your whole body, like if you change the physiology of your body, even if it just, I know it's hard when you feel depressed and you're sad, but just putting the shoes on and just going outside, like
mm,
5 minute walk, it really makes such a big difference, not just like your body, but your mental, like your psyche. It,
mhm,
and that's all it takes sometimes, even sitting in the sauna for 10 minutes. It changes that physiology of your body. Your heart rate goes up, you know, that blood flow starts moving to your brain, to your, you know, your whole body. So I know it's hard. It's not something that just happens automatically. We have to be intentional about it, and we have to go after it. Without it, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, I'll actually say this. One of and you know, one of the best ways to deal with depression outside of, you know, just traditional methods is exercise.
Mhm.
It's exercise. Like, you know, lift weights, run, you know, just move your body, get out in the sun. Because there when it comes to emotions, you know, anger, fear, happiness, whatever you're feeling, this is all is chemicals. There's chemicals associated with all of these feelings. So if you look at it from like the body being chemistry, you can alter the chemical makeup of your body very quickly. Even and this, I think, one of the reasons why breathing exercises can be so impactful. Well, typically when you're exercising, you're going to breathe deeper. You know, we
Mhm.
do this shallow breathing. We're sitting, you know what I mean? It's not good for us. But breathing exercises are just super impactful. And you're right. It's very hard, but like that's kind of what it like what you is it ever easy? Like it's never the right thing to do is never the easy thing to do. It's like there's always a little resistance there, right? And that's kind of what makes it worth doing. But I think that we want to hear an answer. You know, a lot of us are trained, especially in the Western world, we want a pill.
Mhm.
We want a pill to make us feel better because that's so easy. All you have to do is just take this pill and
Yeah.
it'll make you feel better. But then it comes with like all these weird side effects.
Mhm.
So if you want to do things the most efficient way, I think this is me. the natural method is always going to be the best method.
Mm-hmm. And you know, the pill is, it really is just a band-aid. You're not really fixing the depression or whatever it is that you're taking your pill for. Even like blood pressure, diabetes, you're not really fixing it. You're just masking it with a pill. But if you want to fix it, you know, and obviously there's some, you know, when it comes to blood pressure, if it's hereditary, it's harder for it. You know, you can't really fix it by dietary. I mean, it helps, of course, but some people will have to take it. But like for type 2 diabetes, changing your diet can totally reverse your diabetes. And obviously, as a medical professional, like everything we talk about here is for educational purposes. None of this is medical advice. I forget to mention this sometimes, but yeah, you know, everything is a band-aid, even when it comes to emotions. Like, you know, we just cover it up. It's fine. It's fine. We don't talk about it. And we just keep piling it down till we explode. And it's like,
Mm.
whoa, what happened? Right. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even the topic of suicide, you know, I don't like talking about it, but it's been so much more common recently because people just keep covering things up. And they're like,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. I'll deal with it later. And then they get from 0 to 10. And you have to ask for help when you're at like that level 2 or 3 or 4. Don't wait till you're 10.
Right.
Whether it's your mental health or your spiritual health or your body, your overall health, you have to take care of it before you get to that level 10 where you just like maxed out. Um, so yeah, that's a great point. So, you know, since we are both, you know, we are both very passionate about fasting, and we have seen how much fasting can help, not just for weight loss. You know, weight loss, I think it's a side effect of fasting,
Mm-hmm.
but the healing, the internal healing of the body. And I kind of want you to talk a little bit about how you utilize fasting in your own life. But first, before we go there, I know that you do prep a little bit different for fasting. And I really like how you prep your clients and your community when it comes to fasting. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fasting prep is I think it's necessary even if you're doing like 1 day of fasting, because as we talked about before, I go into this like, okay, this is a lifestyle change. We're not doing this just for weight loss. I love the way you put it. Weight loss is just kind of like, it's a bonus. It's just it's a side effect. It comes with it, but it's not like the real reason why. And we'll use it as a way to like draw people in because that's what people want. But you know, you want to start the process of altering your lifestyle. So through preparation for fasting, it's kind of like you're beginning to do that work. So the first thing that we always focus on is hydration, because you know there's many different ways to fast, but when it comes to like weight loss and disease reversal and just healing, you got to be well hydrated. So there's no getting around that. It's got to be done. And when we talk about hydration, we're talking about, you know, hydrating the cells. We're not just talking about drinking water. So I like to promote H3O2, or what I call cellular water. You know, many different names for it now, but it's the water that the cells use. And one of the best ways to get this is through eating
Mhm.
fruit and you know vegetables,
Mhm.
just high water content foods. So we focus on that, the drinking water, the you know eating your water. We also like to start changing the frequency that you eat. So when you're fasting, whether you're doing like juice fasting, liquid fasting, intermittent, whatever, you're going to change the frequency that you're eating. You know, maybe be days, 3 days, 4 days, who, you know, just depends. Um, so we want to eliminate breakfast, because breakfast, we're like addicted, you know, especially as a country, we're addicted to breakfast, and we eat very, very poor in the morning. So that's one of the most challenging things for a lot of people. Um, if you can't get past the breakfast thing, everything else is going to be a challenge. So we're going to start hydrating better. We're going to begin the process of eliminating breakfast. And usually what I do is I'll tell people, you know, if you're struggling, you can have like some fruit or a smoothie or whatever, But what I really want to challenge people to do is go that first 5 hours that they're awake without eating, and that'll begin the process of, getting them mentally prepared. They're going to get a chance to feel the hunger pangs. They're going to get a chance to overcome them. And it's just a small duration of time. So there's a mental thing there, but also there's a physical thing, right? Because first thing in the morning, your body wants to eliminate. But what we're doing is we're putting in pancakes and bacon and egg, this really heavy, dense stuff. So I just want to start the process of getting people outcomes day one. If you skip breakfast, if you're just a regular breakfast eater, you start skipping breakfast, you increase your hydration, like cellular hydration through eating fruits and vegetables, you're going to start seeing benefit after the first 24 hours, even if you're not fasting. And another thing we like to do is make people aware of how to kind of track their progress and monitor their progress, and so that they can pick up on these little cues, right? So now that we have, kind of gotten through breakfast, we're not really doing breakfast. We understand how much water we need to be taking and how to start taking it. Then we
So
move to. Go
how
ahead.
long are you doing this for? Like, how long is this prep for? Like, is it a week or a couple
Yeah,
weeks?
we typically prep for a week. That's like the standard. Sometimes I'll do 2 weeks. It depends on the person, what they're experiencing. And then if I'm going to be suggesting supplements to go with them as well, sometimes I want to get a certain level of detox done before they start fasting, because when you start fasting, depending on the type of fast you're doing, you could potentially detox very heavy, and the detox from fasting can cause people to not want to do it, or to just have a rough time. And
Because
I
of their
want to make.
negative side effects. A lot of times they just have really bad side effects, like headache and just feeling just awful.
Yep, just feeling sick, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. And that can discourage people. And also I think it's where some of the misunderstandings about fasting come from, is the detox. People think, oh, this is hurting me.
Hmm.
Like, this isn't good. So I figure if we can get ahead of that, and while you're still eating, if we can start doing things that will mitigate those detox symptoms, then they'll be more successful. So
For
everything I'm talking about, we transition it over the span of a week.
Gotcha. So for those who might not understand like the whole like structured water from the fruit, um, can you get the H3O from like reverse osmosis, or is it just from the fruit and vegetables that are high uh, quantity of water in it, or like what else can you utilize, and how do you know if you drinking enough of that structured water?
Yeah. Um, I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of different ways you can get this water. There's a lot of people, because of just because of how they found it, or what has happened to help them. They're like, no, this is the only way. But no, nature makes it a lot of different ways, and then also man has come up with many different ways to make it. I don't know if you've ever heard of like easy water or exclusion zone water.
I don't know if I have, no. Mm-mm.
Well, it's essentially, trying to think how I can explain it. One way to make exclusion zone water, it basically is where water will separate from itself,
Mm.
and you will have like the like bad water, the dirty water, and like really really high quality clean water. But one of the ways to get it is by bringing water almost to freezing. Right before water gets to freezing, there becomes an exclusion. There's like this exclusion zone water that's produced. And just like with exclusion zone water, there's many different ways to produce it. You could use, many different methods to do it. You could put light frequency in water. I was actually just learning about a lady who would use full spectrum light
Mm.
to structure her water. There are devices that you can purchase that look like little funnels where you could pour regular water in and structured water will come out. Um, my method, the method that I came, and this was intuitive. I start with the distilled water base, reverse osmosis, filter water. That would all work as well.
Mhm.
But you take your water, you put it in a clear glass jar, you put it out in the sun, you let the sun ionize the water,
Mhm.
right? So that's another way to do it. Now, when we talk about distilled water, people always say, well, distilled water is dead and it has no minerals or whatever in it. So by charging it with the sun, you revitalize the frequency of the water, because the water will actually, the sun's energetic frequency will imprint on the water. And then you can add a little bit of mineral, whatever you want, back to it. I like to use fruits and vegetables and cut it up and let that infuse in there. A lot of people like using salt, different salts and things of that nature. So there's just a lot of ways to do it. But in my research, the best way is fruit, like fruit and vegetables, plant material.